ChatGPT has transformed the way we interact with technology. I've used ChatGPT's interface and its API to help with everyday activities like writing code for real estate metrics, creating blog content, and even answering questions about my own data. This has saved me lots of time and made me more efficient, as it can for you too. In this video, I'm going to show you how to upload any CSV file for OpenAI to answer questions on. We will walk through an example of uploading US housing market data with ChatGPT in Python. My name is Ariel Herrera, your fellow data scientist with the AnalyticsAriel channel, where we bridge the gap between real estate and technology. Please like this video and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. All right, let's get started. ChatGPT has been transformational in the way we speak to technology to ask questions. For example, I'm on ChatGPT's home site right now where we can ask any chat. If I was thinking of creating a real estate blog about cash flow, I could ask ChatGPT how to calculate cash flow for a real estate deal. ChatGPT is trained on a massive amount of data, and right away we are met with an answer that is easy to digest. We get an answer on how to calculate cash flow, attributes that are important like gross rental income, vacancy, other income, expenses, etc. From there, I could even take it a step further. I could use this for a blog perhaps, and I can ask more pointed questions related to code. I can ask ChatGPT how to calculate cash flow for a property using Python. ChatGPT is smart enough to recognize that I'm looking for code in this instance. It is now writing code that will allow us to calculate cash flow, and we could possibly merge with some other data. It provides us with a real-time example of how we could utilize this code. We can copy it and bring it over to a notebook such as Google Colab. Now, this may be nothing new to you if you've been already exploring ChatGPT. If it is, I highly encourage you to ask more questions as it's free right now to use. But for this instance, let's imagine that we have our own data set. We have information on economic data for real estate and housing. And we want to understand more about our data without having to create charts or dive in deep into Excel. How could we get ChatGPT to understand our own individual data source? I'm going to show you how I was able to do this with Python. And stick to the end because I will show you how to actually run the same exact code that I did in Google Colab without having to have Python locally installed at all. Right now we have two windows open. On the left-hand side is VS Code. This is the IDE that I'm using to write Python code. On the right-hand side, I have a Streamlit app. This is running locally on my machine. I have a full 45-minute tutorial video on how to get started in Streamlit from ground zero all the way to hero, so I highly suggest to check that out. In this use case, we're going to work with a data set that's a CSV file. This is a data set that I've created and made publicly available. It's called US Housing Market Data. It takes information from the US Census, FRED, as well as Redfin to consolidate information about macroeconomic stats for US housing data. Here I have a sample on the state level of the data. We have information coming from FRED, such as total population, median household income, days on market, ownership rate, vacancy rate, and we also have information from Redfin. I have selected several states here, most of them smile states, and I also have information like median sale price, price per square foot, etc. My pain point here is that I have all this data, which is amazing, but I need to be able to ask questions about the data without it taking so long to find the answers. For me, I personally use Pandas in order to answer questions about my data, but what if I didn't even really know code? This is where combining Streamlit and ChatGPT is an amazing resource to be able to get ChatGPT to train on your dataset. First, I'm going to show you how the app works, and then we'll work backwards into the code behind it. So in this case, I'm going to browse for files on my Streamlit app, which is being hosted locally. Here I have my file that I just showed you, which has information on macroeconomic stats at the state level from 2018 to the end of 2022. I'm going to open this file, and I am met with the first few rows of my file. It mirrors exactly what we saw when I opened it up in Excel here. Let's start by asking ChatGPT a fairly simple question. We have information by state. We could see here the first row being Alabama. And since I have it sorted by date, we have the first state, which is 2018. Let's say we want to ask ChatGPT, what is the total population for Alabama in January 2018? We can ask here, what is the total population in Alabama in January of 2018? Click enter, and now ChatGPT is reading in our database, and it's going to write a query to answer our question. We could see here the answer is correct, 4.89 mil, which we see here in this first row. If we look at our terminal, we could see that when we ask the question, we have entering new SQL database chain, which I'll go into. We ask the question, what is the total population in Alabama in January 2018? After interpreting our data and using LangChain package, ChatGPT is able to write up the SQL query on its own. It gets the total population, that exact column for Fred, from our states database, which is what we named our database, where Redfin state equals Alabama and date equals 2018. It then got the result, and it answered back to us the result in a nice sentence. Awesome. We were able to answer a question based on a data set that we just uploaded within seconds. Let's now ask a question that's a bit more challenging. We also have unemployment rate in the data. So I'm going to ask a question about unemployment rate for my home state, which is Florida. I'm going to ask, what is the trend for unemployment rate for Florida in 2022? So I'm asking ChatGPT to look at a segment within my data set, which is just Florida and just 2022, and see if unemployment rate is going up or down, which in this case, it says that it is trending downwards. Let's look at the terminal to review the SQL query. Here we could see the SQL queries again getting data from the database, which we just read in our CSV file. It's filtering on redfin.state equals Florida, which is correct, and fred.date like 2022, which is the year we asked for. It then grabs Fred date and Fred unemployment rate, and it gets the SQL results for the first 5 rows. I have this set this way, a limit of 5, but this could be expanded, say, to a limit of 12 if I want to look at the full year. Here we see that in January 2022, unemployment rate was 3.5. Then if we look down at May of 2022, it's 2.9. So yes, it has trended downwards, and ChatGPT was correct in this statement. Now let's dive into the Python query of how we were able to create this small, lightweight, but powerful app. So on the left-hand side, I'm in VS Code, which I use as an IDE. You can also utilize Google Colab too. If you are brand new to Python, I highly suggest for you to watch my series of Introduction to Python videos for free on YouTube. I also have an entire course of how to review market data, web scraping, Tableau, and more within real estate data and using Python. So I'm assuming here that you already either have Python skills or have gone through the course. Now going back to the code on the left-hand side, on the first part, I'm importing the libraries that I'm going to be using. And this includes LangChain and OpenAI. So OpenAI is the creator of ChatGPT. In order for you to use ChatGPT's API, you have to be able to create an account and set up billing with them. If you follow the link below, it takes about 2 minutes, and it walks you through how to sign up for free for the platform OpenAI, and then how to create a new secret key. Once you have that key, you could then bring it into your Python code. The next step in my code is that I have 2 functions, which I'll detail in a moment. But first, I'm setting up my locals and constants. I have a table called states database. This table could be named anything. I just have this as a variable right now. Then URI. So for the CSV that I'm uploading, I just want to store it temporarily so that it could be accessed within the app. Next, I'm reading in my OpenAI API key. When you use the Google Colab version, you'll be able to just pop in this key as a text input. Next, I'm creating my home page, which is my title. You see here on the right, Chat GPT, Pandas, CSV, Streamlit. I then have a quick subtitle or subheader, upload a file to query. Then I use Streamlit's file uploader to allow you to choose a file, which should be a CSV file. It then gets read in by Pandas. I write back the file, which you see here. Next is a text input, also from Streamlit, to ask the user about a question. So here, a user could use a text input and enter their question, which gets stored as a variable called user_Q. Afterwards, I commit the data to SQL. So I first prepare the Excel file. Preparing the Excel file includes replacing the columns to make sure that they're one, lowercase, and two, those underscores that we see are removed. Then we connect this to a SQLite database. We then push the data to SQL by stating our table name, which was statesDB, our connection, and if the data is already there, replace it. We also don't want to save the index, which is this column here, so we set that to false. Once the data is now in our SQLite database, we create a database engine. Here we have our URL, static pool to make a single connection for requests, and then pass in our connection. We then set our database to SQL database and input the engine. This is required for LangChain. Afterwards, we then create OpenAI connection and database chain. So this is where we're actually utilizing ChatGPT's API. We pass in the API here. Then I set the temperature to 0. You can set it from, I believe, 0 to 100, the highest being more creative in how OpenAI will answer your question. I just want facts about my data, so I'm setting this to 0. I also have max tokens set as well. I then create the SQL database chain and set this to DB chain. Now, the last step is if a user asks a question, I want to run their question through the database chain, which has already been trained on my particular data set, and then I write the result. Within the terminal, I can actually track to see what the SQL query was, as well as the result. If this walkthrough was too quick, then again, I highly suggest for you to watch the Python introduction videos that I have for free. As well, let me know below if you'd like to have a course built out around this topic. What if you do not have Python installed locally, or maybe you've never created a Streamlit app before? That is fine. I've migrated the Streamlit app into Google Colab, which is a free notebook environment. You can make a direct copy of the notebook that I have and save it to your drive. Once you do, you can run all the cells. When you run all the cells, it's going to install the packages required to run this app, which is Streamlit, LangChain, and OpenAI. I have then taken the file that I had in VS Code and pushed it into this one single cell where I label it as app.py. Then below, we're running the Streamlit app in the background. And we're exposing it to port 8501, which is local. So only you will have access to this particular app. Once it runs, you'll see the URL pop up at the bottom. This is going to be unique. Click it and click continue. You will now see the Streamlit app. If you'd like to use the same file that I used, you could either sign up for my API, or you can go directly to my GitHub, where I have an example of that same file that I used. Then you'll come back to the app, browse files, then select your file, and there's going to be a slight difference from the local Streamlit app that I was running. If we look below, there's now a new text input called API key. This allows you to enter in your API key that you've signed up for. Once you enter your API key, click enter, and then you could ask your question. So in this case, I'm going to ask something fairly simple, which is, what is the median household income for Florida in June of 2022? Just like in the previous app, Chat GPT has now answered our question, and we could see that the median household income for Florida in June of 2022 was almost $60,000. Great, so what we've been able to do is utilize Python with ChatGPT, OpenAI, to not only answer questions off the web, but questions about our unique data set. We've also walked through how to create the same exact app that I did in Google Colab so that you could run it immediately with your own API key. If you'd like to see more of this type of content of me integrating real estate and ChatGPT, please let me know in the comments below. And if you want a deep dive, I am open to possibly creating a course this summer on it. If you haven't already, please subscribe and like this video. Thanks.